Good morning, everybody. I'm on the wrong side there. Let me switch that. Good morning, y'all. It
Hmm.
is officially speculation season, where for the next few months we will plot on the Texas Longhorns and try to figure things out. And Eric had a good piece talking about notes on the current offense. We'll discuss that. Sark and Harris get a big extension. Sark handled that NFL interest quite well. And then we'll also talk a little bit about the national championship game. But as always, guys, you can take us off course with anything you guys want. So throw a question in the chat. Good morning, Roaster. Let's actually start with the extensions. Let's do that. Coach, you wrote a good article on Brandon Harris and kind of the modern GM position that's starting to rise. What's the latest there? How important is that role? And I saw a tweet, I need to verify it, but it looked like he like doubled his salary too. So yeah, what's the deal with that?
Yeah, you're starting to see it all around college football. It's a great thing, right? Because it provides stability off the field support, and that's just as important as on the field support staffs. And so when you got somebody who can handle the day-to-day operations of a program, while you get to focus on X's and O's, and you can trust him to handle his job and handle all the things that happen behind the scenes with kids, with NIL portal and things like that, it's good to have a figure piece and like himself, who's been around Sark for a while now, knows how he operates, knows and speaks the same language as Sark, right? And help these kids stay. And roster retention, roster management is just as huge as anything now. So having someone like Brandon Harris on staff and extended him really shows support of him, but shows that, hey, this staff has gelled together and are together on and off the field. So it's really, really huge. It's a huge role, man. It plays an important piece in everything they do, especially in the off season. This is their time to shine, right? This is when this is go time for the GM and support staff. Right. And so he's doing a great job, and they extended him.
How does it work? So there's like two kingdoms now. There's like the director of operations recruiting side, and then once they're in, it goes over to the GM. How do these internal politics work now with kind of the rise of the GM, but also the recruiting side internally?
Yeah, I would say it just depends on your role as a GM. Everybody may have a GM title, but everybody does something different per university, right? So everybody has their role and responsibilities that they are given by Coach Sark and whoever else. So everybody's GM is not created equal. It just really depends on what they trust you with and what you handle the best. And so I'm sure in this case, Brandon's really, really close to the players. He's close to the families as they come on campus, gets to know them, gets to know the ins and outs about players and things like that. So for him, he plays the important piece in recruiting, like being able to help on campus recruiting, but also the other side when it comes time to, I guess, NIL negotiations there, all of that, he can play a part in that well. But it really depends on your role and what that's defined by the head coach.
So is he's dealing with the agents? He's the one that has to fill all those callers?
I wouldn't say dealing with agents, but I wouldn't say Brandon's dealing with agents, but
his staff is? Is that how it works?
Well, I would say, Eric probably can speak to that more as who has role behind the scene. I'm not sure specifically what his role is, but I know he just plays an important piece off field support.
Yeah, he's kind of a buffer between the players and families and Sark and the coaching staff. But no, he's not doing the negotiation. They've got people that are do that for a living and are quite accomplished in that. It takes a special type of person and a lot of experience to know how to negotiate. So no, but he's definitely more on the player side of it. Like I said, a buffer between Sark and the coaching staff and all these players. Sark doesn't have time. There's not enough hours in the day for Sark to handle a lot of the more trivial things. But then he's also, intricate with the personnel side of it, who they're going after, what they need to do to get that person, that sort of thing. He's got a lot of connections, especially in Louisiana. I think it was Alabama and Miami coming after him this time. So that will give you quite a bit of an idea of how he's viewed. So, just like how Sark had people come, hell no, I'm not wearing this for Ohio State. It's hoodie weather. I mean, it's hoodie weather down here in Texas. I grabbed the first hoodie I saw. It was bright red. I guess that's why I got it. But no, this is not for Ohio State. I'll be cheering on the Domers.
Agreed.
So who's doing the transfer evals? Do we know what kind of department that is? How does that work?
I think John Michael Jones and some of the other guys that just do the standard recruiting evaluation are doing that transfer. They lost their guy to Rice before the season, or was it last offseason, I think, that was handling that. But yeah, it's all hands on deck on that with John Michael Jones, I think, is leading up that charge.
Yeah, I'm going to start to pry more into that side because it's getting the proification, the professionalization is getting interesting. So the support personnel side is becoming far more.
Sark is really the GM. He's going to be the guy that organizes how NIL runs as the collectives go, become part of the athletic department. But Brandon is kind of like his sidekick and all that. Not to demean Brandon, but that's Sark is the GM, the de facto GM. So he does all the things that Sark would do that, but doesn't have time to do. So sometimes it is player evaluation, but a lot of times it's outreach to people. Trying to figure out, trying to do the mental eval on the kid, trying to figure out, how's he wired? Because like Sark always says, the problem with the portal is they don't have enough time to get to know the players before they pursue them.
Yeah.
So Brandon does a lot of that advanced, investigating. And Brandon knows Brandon knows a lot of people in the South, and he knows, you've got to know somebody in the recruitment to be an advocate for you or for your school. Brandon's pretty good at getting their foot in the door that way.
One word. Trying to see what is this about? Black to A&M. Is that a thing that actually happened? Is that a message board rumor? What's the latest on that?
No, he committed A&M and committed.
When? This morning or last night?
Yeah, this morning. It came out last night.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. Well, that's always fun, right?
Well, I mean, he's can he catch the ball? Is he going to block at least serviceably? Yeah. Who knows? He's talented, but whatever. I mean, I don't care what A&M got. They should have traded him for Donovan Green though. Texas needs a tight end.
I like that.
Yeah, I'd have been okay with that. VFL Texas X. He's split down the side. He's half Vol, half Texas. Are we going to be able to keep all these highly rated quarterbacks we got coming in and already here? If not, which one do we lose?
Well, you always keep the best ones.
Yeah.
So and then you make room for another wave of competition, and then you keep the best ones from that. That's pretty much how it works across the whole roster. You're going to lose people. That's just the way it is. So the job is to keep the best ones, and that's why retention is so important. But we're not going to speculate on which quarterbacks are going to make it, not going to make it. I mean, we've got 2 starts among all 3 of them. None for Owens, obviously, none for Lacey. He just got there. I mean, there's no point in speculating on that. Dia Bell right behind Case. KJ Lacey. Schools are coming after Dia pretty hard, given the pipeline at quarterback in front of them. But
you got to leverage that if you're anti-recruiting Texas to be like, yo, come on, are you going to be able to start?
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, Trey Owens is fortunate that he's got a head start on those guys, so he'll be, if he stays patient behind Arch, I think Arch is going to play for 2 years at Texas. Then if Trey Owens, Sark loves experience at quarterback. Sark has very little interest in playing a true freshman, no matter how talented he is.
I know it's not the NFL, but with all 4 quarterbacks in the conference championship round being some sort of dual threat quarterback, and with Arch coming in, do you see Sark evolving and recruiting more dual threat quarterbacks?
Look, to me, look at the guys he's recruited. I'm not saying they're true dual threat guys, but they all can tuck the ball and run, right? They're not just statues back there in the pocket. You look from Diabe, look KJ Lacey. You know what I'm saying? Trey Owens is a big guy, but he's not going to stand back there and get hit. So I wouldn't say true dual threat where you see some Lamar Jackson, but he's not going to recruit a guy who can't move. I want to say that. He's going to recruit a guy who can run his offense, but it starts up here mentally, right? And so if you look at all the guys he's recruited, all of them can run if they need to, right? You pick up yards. Nobody's going to recruit a statue to sit back there and just get hit. So I don't know if you see Lamar Jackson, though.
Eric, you had a note in your offense side about maybe the offense using more kind of keeper stuff and more rollout stuff with Arch. So is that kind of a
they'll do stuff differently with Arch that you wouldn't do with Quinn. Yeah, they'll do more bootlegs, and he will have more keepers to keep the defense honest. You'll see an athletic component to the quarterback position for Sark that you hadn't really seen so far in his time at Texas, but that's just to be expected. They're going to play to his quarterback strengths. They've got stuff that they would do with KJ Lacey that they wouldn't do with Arch too, so they've got a plan to kind of tailor the offense to Arch's liking and take advantage of his legs.
Are we all in hoodies today? Yeah, it's like 20 degrees in DFW. So me and Coach are in DFW. What's the temperature in Houston area, Eric?
It's like 28.
Yeah. So of course it's hoodies. And if I turn on my heater, it hasn't been on in like 6 months, and so it has that like weird smell to it. So I'm trying to avoid burning off whatever that is, but we'll see. I don't think it's a coincidence that Vince, Colt, and Sam were dual threat quarterbacks, and Texas was playing its best on offense.
I don't know if you call Colt a dual threat. He could run. I mean, there's tiers of it. There's you can't have Colt and VY in the same category. That's just it's too broad if you've got those guys in the same category. But yeah, you want guys that can use their legs. And I think Colt had 1 year where he rushed for 500 yards. Yeah, I mean, you should always want some athleticism out of your quarterback because the plays break down quite a bit. And especially if you got guys in man coverage and they got corners got their back to there's a lot of free yards to be had out there. Mac Jones actually made some plays with his legs in 2020 just because of he's athletic enough to take advantage of it. But not a lot of Sams going around. It would be fun to see Sam in this offense just to see how Sark would tailor. All those guys are very different. Arch to me is a tight end type of athlete. Arch could credibly play tight end in college with little problem athletically and size wise. You build him up differently than you do to play quarterback. But he's the tight end as an athlete, and you can do a lot of damage with tight end back there.
Yeah, his sidekick, more his right hand, I guess, would be stronger way to say it. Where does Michael Terry?
What's wrong with being a sidekick? My son seems to always love the sidekick for some reason. He likes Robin more than Batman. We just saw Sonic 3, and he didn't like Sonic. He liked this other kid, the guy with the British accent. There's nothing wrong with being a sidekick. That just came out wrong, but who? I mean, that's what he is. He's Sark's number 2 in certain things that they have to handle. So, whatever you want to call it, I'm sure he'll be all right.
Where does Michael Terry fit into the offense next year? Also, who's developed well in the previous class? Looking at guys like Washington at tight end and Anthony Smith at linebacker.
Michael Terry's a wide receiver. Go to InsideTexas.com. We've got you locked in on all that stuff, Ezekiel. Washington. They love Washington at tight end. Smith, you mentioned 2 guys that they're going to depend on quite a bit next year. More so Washington. Smith has Leonga, Anthony Hill, and the addition of Brad Spence. But Smith will be in the 2 deep at linebacker. Washington is the guy that they really need to. Right now, he'd have to start, and so they're very high on him. I need to get a better handle on him. I'm doing a big position breakdown, getting people on the phone. What did they see from these guys, especially the guys that were on scout team? What can we expect out of them this upcoming season? But what do they need to get better at and use this off season for? So we're doing a position by position breakdown. And we'll go into much greater depth on that. I haven't quite had those phone calls yet. Just lately, I've been doing the macro breakdown. But yeah, Washington is a guy that they need. He's got all the talent in the world, but that's going to be a lot of pressure on him to be good right away.
Yeah, I like Washington a lot.
So do I, man. He's gonna be fun, and of course, Eric likes Anthony Smith as we all do. So it's gonna be fun. Speculation season's gonna be quite fun.
Alex January is another one that needs to be mentioned. He got
Joe wrote a good piece.
Yeah, he got some reps against. I wanted to say the national championship game, but it wasn't that. Against Ohio State in the semifinal. Like we say on Inside, he needs to live in the squat rack this offseason, just get stronger. I think he'll be ready for 30-plus snaps. Alex is one of the most important young players in the entire program, just because of the need for defensive tackles.
Yeah, and he can draw a punch with the best of them.
Yeah, he held his own. He held his own on the goal line down there against them. He did a great job taking on double teams. I was like, all right, youngin, do your thing.
Yeah, it was shocking when I went on the field with him. Was it last spring or last August? I think it was last spring, and he's just, he looked like an upperclassman the way his body was, the way he's built. He's a big kid, filled out pretty well already. So, bright future there.
Do y'all know how his mental eval is? I've never talked to him or heard him speak.
Yeah, he's good.
Yes.
Sharp. Dad being a college football player, he's a baseball kid too. Baseball kids are always a little different.
Yeah. Is A&M trying to get a leg up on our offensive play calls? How much is it to the spying, taking playbooks? How much is that real? How much of that is fan fiction?
Look, I can speak from a little experience. They hand out playbooks at the beginning of the year, and then they take those things back because you never know. You might have a disgruntled player trying to share during the midseason, but they're going to change everything, right? They may have the same play, but it's going to be called something totally different come next year, so you won't even know. I'm sure in Sark, being who he is, he's going to change things up. So you can try to take maybe some principles, some scheme things, but what can you really take? I mean, they're going to change so much that you won't know.
What's they going to say? Like they run inside zone. It's like, we can see that. We're coaches. We understand what their plays are. But I'm always interested in that, kind of the subterfuge of it.
Yeah, sign stealing is a real thing. Texas has had that on. Texas has been on the wrong side of that a time or two. But yeah, they'll change up their signs, and I'm not. Nobody's worried about Amari and Black.
Yeah.
Did he fully grasp the offense to be able to translate it?
Well, I don't know. The problem with these it's so bizarre. You get these guys from Alabama, they don't want to block. That was
weird.
That was Bond's issues. What is Nick Saban doing over there? And then he's banging out 7 national championships with half his guys don't want to block. I don't understand it. But yeah, everybody asks about Isaiah Bond. That was kind of it. You're not going to play wide receiver for them if you don't block. So next year when you've got, I don't know if it's going to work out like this, but Wingo's obviously going to start. DeAndre Moore is very likely to start, and right now Parker Livingstone would start. It's an underrated aspect of wide receiver play, but the blocking would be really damn good. The running backs would appreciate it for sure, and they might actually be able to run the screen too to that side.
Livingstone, you said hit 22, and we knew he had long speed coming in, so that's interesting on Livingstone. Is he? Yeah, that would be interesting if he's able to rise in this kind of
196 pounds, and what I heard was he ran the 4th fastest time out of 120 kids or whatever. So yeah,
that's the kind of wide receivers I like. I like big ones that, well, of course they can run, but I like the contested catch wide receiver opposed to like the more Tyreek Hillian approach.
Well, if you go back to his highlights, he's winning pretty much every way. He runs a lot of 50-50s, but he's also running away from people and just winning with speed. So,
but yeah, if he's tall and 200 pounds, though, that's what I like. I don't,
Arch throws bombs, and Arch throws 50-50 balls. Parker Livingstone might have a pretty interesting first year of playing.
Cool. Before we keep going, guys, let's hear a word from Andre, the lawyer, the best.
This video is brought to you by Andre, the lawyer. If you're injured, trust the team that secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans with their injury case. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, and wrongful deaths. Don't let insurance tell you what your claim is worth. Hire Andre the lawyer to fight for you. Principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait and call Andre the lawyer today at 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. The contact information is in the description.
Good cop, bad cop. I'm just messing with you. All right.
Me and Top got to figure out who owes who a steak here because yeah, I bet or he wanted to bet that Cade Phillips wouldn't end up at Texas, which I won initially, and then he won, and then I won again. So really,
I'll need to split a steak. I'll need to have a nice meal together.
And I get 2/3 of it.
Yeah, that's what you get. Yeah, you can get 2/3 of the steak.
Hey, let's put this one back up here then. All right.
You said I lost. Okay.
We'll get a big steak, and we'll go up to Amarillo, get the old 76 or whatever the hell that thing is, and I'll get 2/3 of it.
Have you seen well, Eric, I know you're not on TikTok, but have you seen the TikTok from the support staff where they were doing like the little videos with the new recruits, like asking them who's going to be late to class and stuff?
Yeah.
It's interesting. If you haven't seen it, I'll send it to you guys. But Cade Phillip is always so stoic and stone-faced in all of his pictures. It was interesting to hear him talk. It's like, oh, he has a personality.
Oh, man. Yeah, the first time I went to see him at a track meet this year, and he's just so gregarious and kind of happy, and we're joking back and forth, and he's got this kind of goofy little laugh, and I go to take a picture, and it is a mean mug, dude. It comes out of nowhere, and then it goes right back to being normal. It's pretty funny.
That's why I was shocked, because I was like, this kid's got to be like the one that you interview. He gives you 3 words, or something like that. And then I heard him, I was like, oh no, he has a personality.
Yeah, I enjoyed talking to him, but then the picture kind of shocks you.
It is funny.
All right, we got a Drew M question here, huh? Aaron Butler, Aaron Butler had a good first season, for not playing. He worked his way from scout. He was the opposing team's quarterback a lot if that quarterback was athletic, but also made some plays at wide receiver enough to where they put him on the travel squad. So I'll be curious to see if they move him inside. I would be tempted to put him at slot, given the guys you have coming in, given that you've got Livingstone outside as well. So I would put him at slot, and then I would also give him a shot at punt return. But he's a hell of an athlete from the sound of it. So he's going to have a chance to play. But we'll see. They're still going to take everybody. everybody in the world knows they're going to take a wide receiver in the spring portal window, and that could maybe potentially affect where they want to put Butler. But I would put him at the slot for spring and see how it goes.
I like Butler. He did an little overtime documentary before he committed, and I really liked him because remember, he wasn't really much in our orbit. He kind of just showed up late in the game, probably an NFL style recruitment or NIL style recruitment. But I thought he had the right mental tools in his workouts and stuff he was showing. He seemed to be serious about it. Do you think with the spring portal, we get the guys that needed positions to stay elite? Eric just said wide receiver,
tackle,
yeah, defensive tackle. I think what Justin was saying, we want 4 and we have 2. Is that still what you're thinking? Or
I think they'll probably take 3 total. It kind of depends on who goes in, but man, the early information on Justice Terry is through the freaking roof. They're going to feel quite confident playing him a lot this year. And it's not just about his athleticism and, his size, his length or whatever. It's just, the mental makeup. They love that. And so you feel a lot more comfortable relying on a young guy when you get to know him better. And, he's already blowing everybody away with just his maturity and then also what he does in the weight room and then what they saw from him on the practice field. So I think that they could keep it at 3. With Justice coming on, and then Sharma. If you saw the picture of Sharma, he's physically ready to just go be there and don't let them move you. Is actually
anchor the run, sit down.
Actually a play in football that a young guy can pull off. So he'll probably play. But I think it's going to end up being 3 just because those guys are expensive. They've got 2 good ones in Brevard and Shaw that I think are better than a lot of people realize. And then Justice Terry coming on, January coming on. And they've got some other needs they need to address. They need a tight end now. Drew M. just mentions over here that they need a tight end. Absolutely correct. They tried to get the kid out of Purdue. Didn't work out. And then, another wide receiver, like we said. I think they need a running back. I'm not sure that they think they need a running back.
I think they need a running back as well.
Yeah. So, and then, man, like I said, the first time in Sark's time that they feel like they need some offensive linemen too. That, they need more depth and maybe even more competition.
Yeah. And most likely, would that be a tackle or a guard?
I think they would go one of each. It depends on, you're not in control. Well, sometimes you are in control of what goes on the portal, but for the most part, you're not in control of what goes in the portal. And it just kind of depends. We already know that they went for a guard. I think tackle is every bit as big of a need. They need a swing tackle. They need somebody to come in and compete. Who would be the left tackle if something happened to Gooseby? Yeah, I don't know. If I don't know, that's a bad sign.
Yeah.
What happened to recruiting? We got a couple Pflugerville kids being asked about.
Let's see.
Yeah. Talk about Javian Martin.
Mays, yeah. What happened to recruiting J.J. Mays and Javian Martin from Pflugerville?
Yeah. Me just kind of following Javian. I mean, I'm starting to see him really take off in recruiting. Like, he's starting to get some of the big time offers. So I'm sure being from the area, I'm sure they had their eyes on him. But I mean, this thing takes time, man. They're scouting, they're processing it. Like, what I'm saying? Let it take time.
They know both those guys very well. Mays has been on campus a handful of times. That offensive line class is pretty damn loaded in state. So it's quite a bit of competition to get Texas's attention. There's just a lot of kids, and they've got the top guy figured out with Turntine. But there's a number of others that they really like as well. So yeah, I don't know. They take a slower process before they really go in on everybody. They try to figure out who they truly want. It's a slow buildup. We know it. We know how this cycle's going to get. There's going to be a lot of anxious people. A lot of people on here. What's going on? How come we're not landing anybody? How'd they go from the normal one class to blah blah blah. It's still going to be a very very good class, but they're probably going to take their time.
Tyreek Hill. Yeah, see, me, I'm a bit of an intellectual S. So I say things like Tyreek Hill. I'm a real smart guy. As soon as I said that, I was like, man, that sounds pretentious. All right, Eric and Coach. Ian said he's not concerned about offensive line because the guys replacing them have been in the system for a couple years. Do you agree with his thought process?
Oh, this is where we should just call him up and have like a camera following him around the house while he's like folding laundry or whatever.
Yep.
I don't necessarily agree with him here. Cohesion amongst the 5 playing is still important. Those guys haven't played. You've got a brand new center who's going to be making a lot of line calls. Now, he does have a lot of experience. If it's assuming that it ends up being Cole Hudson, but you're going to be breaking in a brand new right tackle. That's sort of terrifying. Somebody who has not played a college snap yet or a meaningful college snap yet is going to be out there. And Gooseby is still young and learning how to really use his leverage in the run game and still gaining strength. So now I'm a little worried about the offensive line. Now I do think that they should be able to run downhill better than they have in the past, and then that will help go towards creating offensive identity. And ideally, they can get back to running inside zone and play action over the top. Arch, I think, is a very good play action quarterback. So it can all work out, but I don't know that the offensive. I definitely have some questions about the offensive line, and I'll be tracking that very closely in the entire offseason. It's
also not injury proof, and that's right. It changes the whole calculus if somebody goes down. Coach, what were you going to say?
I was saying it's more 50-50 to me. If you go back, if you trust Cal Flood to develop, then you probably don't worry as much. And you look at Cam Williams, who came in and really this is his first year playing, right? And now he's getting ready to go to the NFL, right? DJ Campbell played some, but now he played more this year. So you look at those guys, so they didn't play much. When they stepped in, they played well as a unit. So maybe we just trust Cal Flood, but then like experience matters. And like Eric just said, like the cohesiveness of the front five playing together, first time center, which is important, who got to make all the calls. That's very, very hard to step in and do. So you got to worry about it. To me, it's like a flip of a coin. Maybe they can step in and play good right away, but then that experience really, really matters. So
look at the experience lost between, and game started is sometimes an overused metric, but you've got the starts combination between Jake Majors and Quinn Ewers, and then you go to Cole Hudson, and now you've got starting at center is entirely different than starting at guard. And so you got Cole Hudson getting his first start at center. We assume that's how it's going to play out, and then Archie Manning would be getting his third start. So there's a lot going on that offensive line. But they've got an offseason figured out, and luckily, like to Ian's point, it's not plugging and playing true freshmen or guys in their second year. Like there's a lot of guys that have time under tension. Neto Umuzulu is going to be entering his fourth year in the program. Cole Hudson, DJ Campbell, same thing. So that matters. Gooseby, we know what to expect within reason with him. So there are reasons for optimism. I can see why people are not too worried about it. I'm going to be worried about it until I hear more positives from inside the building.
January over Sevilla and Kobe over Javion. Let's keep developing young guys over fringe portal guys.
Well, I mean, you take those fringe portal guys because you need them. You don't know exactly what to expect out of the true freshman.
Yeah,
you can't. And you're not going to know what you've got until the guys get on campus. So you kind of have to do a little bit of everything. You've got to cover your bases. When they took Sevilla, they had no idea what they were going to have in January, and they didn't even know if they were going to be able to. At that time, they didn't have Bill Norton and Jermaine Lole, so they had to take Sevilla. And Javion was kind of a break glass in case of emergency. That they feel like if that guy isn't able to even crack the depth chart, then they're Gavin Holmes is playing well and Kobe's playing pretty well. So you take those guys, you don't take them, expecting that you have to lean on them. You're hoping that you don't. But like we always say about the staff, they leave nothing to chance. At least they try to anyway. Sometimes at running back you can't, like at running back you can't really do anything about it. But you just have so much bad luck. But don't leave anything to chance when you're Texas, and that's what they're doing. But to their credit, they played January over Sevilla. They played Kobe over Javion. So they're going to play their talented guys first.
Yeah, like it's important to take depth portal guys too. It doesn't mean that the younger guys are not being developed in that circumstance. How many can Texas take in the transfer portal?
As many as they need. You just massage the numbers. You just if somebody's coming in, somebody has to go. But if you take somebody that improves the roster, then that's what you're going to do. So we don't like to use names about guys that might leave the program, but it's the writing's often on the wall. If you're not playing a lot and you're getting passed up on the depth chart, that's usually a clear sign. But they're going to address whatever needs they have. They feel like they can win the national championship next year. They do have to have a good portal window in the spring. They know that. They feel like they've got retention behind them. They've got most of the exports behind them. But if they need to get some more people out to make room, then that's what they'll do. That's what they'll do.
Also, naming them benefits nobody, because if they don't transfer, then everyone on Twitter was just hating on the player for a couple of days for no reason.
Yeah, I hate the pile on. It's mean spirited. There's no point in speculating. Nobody wins from that. I get frustrated when I get asked that question. Can you name them? Why? What's the point of that? It's rude.
Yeah, because it's going to. Inside Texas said this player, and now we all hate X player. Yeah,
then I get pissed off parents. I had a pissed off parent calling me up yesterday, blaming me for stuff that had never once been uttered on my site.
Yep.
especially by anybody that works there. I said, man, I can't control what people say. I can control what they say on Inside Texas, barely more than I can control what they say on Twitter, which is very little. But it's just mean spirited. There's no point in talking trash about players unless they're just an a-hole.
Yeah. What do you think the coaches are going to do with Ogbo? What's his position?
He's at tackle.
Yeah.
That guy got on Ozempic before it even came out or something. He was on a trial study for Ozempic. I don't know what happened. He lost so much weight. He had kind of a bad body, but he moved extremely well for that body type coming out of high school. And now he looks like he's, wants to be Ronnie Coleman or something. He's he leaned up too much, but there's nothing wrong with that. He got rid of a lot of bad weight. Now he's trying to build it back the right way, but that takes time. It takes time to put on weight the right way. So yeah, he's at tackle. We'll be watching him a lot this spring. He was always a bit of a longer curve player, but man, the way that guy, his feet, he can move. I would have been tempted to put him at defensive tackle once he lost all that weight, honestly.
Oh yeah.
I also still like the idea of him as a giant tight end.
Giant jumbo package. Yeah. Bring it back.
We need to be able to move guys.
Yeah, he looks good in that number 80.
Good stuff. All right, guys, before we keep going, Laura Baker.
Hi, I want to tell you about Laura Baker. If you're looking for a new home in the 512 or even at this point, let's face it, 737 area code, there's only one number to call. That's Laura Baker at 512-784-0505. As a member of the elite Andy Allen team with Keller Williams, Laura has helped Longhorns find the home of their dreams in Central Texas. Just ask our resident sex symbol, Ian Boyd, who moved all the way from Michigan to Texas with Laura's help. Laura can help you find what you're looking for in the 512, the 737, or even parts of the 254 and the 210. Just, give her a call at 512-784-0505. Her email is in the description as well as the rest of her contact details. She's a friend. Give her a call.
French portal guys have purpose, need grown-ups. Yeah, also, too, what are we going to do with kind of guys have been in the program? It's fully Sark's program, but the classic who's going to be the leader question. But how do we feel about leadership going into it? Who can shape up? Hill on defense. Yeah. Arch is going to have to de facto be a leader.
Arch will have no problem with him.
Yeah, Majors is gone at center. We don't have any wide receiver. It will be interesting to see. The running back is in kind of a mix. So Gunnar Helm's gone at tight end. So it is going to be interesting on offense to see who kind of emerges. I mean, it'll be
DeAndre Moore, Arch, probably Cole Hudson as a center, and he's been around like everybody knows Cole. He's been around for a long time, played a lot of good football for Texas. I would say those three on offense. Defense, of course, you got Taff, Ethan Burke as a senior. It's usually when they have to be a leader, they step up. When it's their time. A lot of those guys depend on the guy above them. Like Ethan Burke could depend on Barron Sorrell. Now Ethan Burke has to become Barron Sorrell. And so I don't worry about leadership on defense at all. Offense, I don't really worry about it with Arch either, man. Everybody loves Arch. Arch takes football very seriously. Like, he does all the right things. He's got kind of a personality that people tend to gravitate to just to begin with. So, but they do need some guys on the offensive line. Gooseby has the ability to do it. Very hard worker, great work ethic. But they'll have to step up and do that. But Sark has done a great job of cultivating leadership. That's probably when I really bought into Sark, was right after they went 5-7. The way he went about cultivating leadership, that winter conditioning, I was like, man, this team is really bought in. The fact nobody wanted to leave after they went 5-7 tells you so much. And that leadership, out of that season, you had Bijan and Roshan. Roshan really took charge of that team. And that was really a huge step in Sark's program build, was right after going 5-7. He hasn't had a problem cultivating leadership since then.
Yeah, Jordan Whittington last year. This year we had Jade Barron, the rest of him. So yeah, it hasn't been an issue at all.
Oh.
Let me see. Sark has done a great job of player retention, which in turn creates leaders.
Yeah, definitely done a great job of player retention, man. You kept a lot of mainstays and key pieces, man. Like, that's hard to do in today's world of college football. It's hard to do. Even on a team that does great, you may look at Notre Dame and Ohio State, they still may lose people. You never know. It's like it's very hard. So he's done a great job of roster management.
Even guys that weren't necessarily team leaders were position leaders, like Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton last year were great leaders within their room. Maybe not the type of guys that try to take control of the whole team or anything, but every room has to have some sort of leadership in it. And so they've got a task ahead of them. A lot of the guys that have the ability or the traits or the, sort of the aptitude or want to are there, but you still have to cultivate it.
Yeah, the trick will be retaining guys from going pro, which is I did a tweet a couple of days ago that we went from no NFL guys to being upset that too many of our pro players are going pro. So
yeah, they've got in back-to-back years, they're going to have a total of 10 guys that got drafted early. That's just early. It used to be that they would be lucky to have 5 guys drafted at all.
Yeah, and none in the early rounds.
Yeah. So it's the number one thing he's done right at Texas is roster management.
Yeah,
definitely.
Gabriel thinks Baxter's leadership will shine. His letter was an insight to his leadership role.
Yeah, and coming back from injury is only going to harden him and give him more resolve, toughen him up. And yeah, I think that's the sort of life experience that leadership often comes from. That's coming back from a setback like that where he had high expectations. He's just a great dude. But that's that all starts with the evaluation. Go identify the right guys to begin with, and Sark has done a really good job of, and Tashard Choice too.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you project to start at opposite corner of Muhammad? Kobe
or Portal? Yep, I could see them going for a corner in the portal if they have any money left.
I was gonna say, these are like positions you got to pay for, dude. Like these are.
No, you do.
Yeah, like these are like all the positions we need are the expensive positions, and it's not a coincidence because the expensive positions are going to go pro to get paid.
Yeah.
Here's a good follow-up on Roberson from Drew M. Yeah, Roberson's got a chance to break out. He's got all the athletic and physical traits, but he's got to become more reliable. And we saw some of the issues with reliability with him on special teams this year. So you can imagine that it'd be terrifying to have him at corner when they can't trust him. It's kind of like Terrence Brooks was great 80% of the time, but that 20% was costly. And so you have to be consistent at corner, like at safety. Some of these positions you can't afford these mental lapses because you'll get hit for 7 over the top.
Whole staff has, man. I for sure thought some people would leave. Me too. But also Sark's staff retention on top of his player retention is pretty remarkable.
People don't want to leave, man.
I know, which is weird for coaches because they're not hyper loyal.
After they went 5-7, I wrote about it. I was like, man, I'm not hearing about anybody wanting to leave. You would think it's you always hear about after a rough season, everybody's trying to get the hell out.
Yeah, nobody
wanted to leave. They had to have tough conversations with guys. Hey, we got to make room for a better player. If nobody wants to leave when they're 5-7, who do you think wants to leave when they're 13-3 and building, just continuing to build it? So,
yeah, who are the best wide receiver portal ass prospects?
They're not going to take a wide receiver in this portal window. It'll be next window, and then it's impossible to know. Hopefully, Texas. Here's what Texas is going to do. Their people are going to go wave a bunch of cash in the general direction of agents, and hope that some of those agents have good wide receivers under their charge. Yeah, they'll be aggressive in the next portal window. I'm not saying they're tampering. I'm just saying, hey, look, if agents are going to exist, you might.
No, I'm just laughing because it's such a crazy sport now. How it works, And the agents, let's act like the agents are also popping up being like, hey, their job is to go get like 7 quotes and then bring it to the wide receiver and be like, if you were to go in, these are your numbers.
Yep.
It's pretty wild.
Actively working.
Sticking with DBs, is Wardell Mack still at Star?
Yeah, he moved there in October. That's a good sign that they feel like, hey, he's learning the basics at corner. Let's put a little bit more on his plate. Hopefully he has another year to develop there. It's a very tough position. Like I wrote in this article, I put Joe Cook posted it for me while we were on here. I said it's no coincidence that Andrew Makuba's best years were at safety and that Jahdae Barron's best year was at corner. Because star nickel, it's a very tough position to play. It's mentally and physically demanding, which is why I said Jalen Gilbo would be a good corner. But for Wardell Mack, you want these guys to have time to develop and see everything. You got to processing the box in addition to having to keep your eyes on a receiver. There's a lot going on. I feel bad for them. Like I said, Andrew Makuba's best year, safety. Barron's best year, corner, because they don't have all that stuff going on. And Makuba and Barron are smart football players. So it tells you quite a bit how hard it is to play star. So hopefully Wardell Mack is a guy that has time to develop. 2 years to develop, should have him right on time in the following season if Gilbo's still there this year.
Yeah, nickels are kind of tricky because they're kind of like tight ends on the inverse, right? They have to do a lot of run and pass responsibility. They also have to do work into the blitz package more than just an outside corner. Nickels have to process a lot, and they're playing in both sides of the game a lot. And just by virtue of being closer to the box and their so that's going to happen fast in the run game, but also they're facing slot receivers who are known for being quick. Like that's not a fun position, man. It's much easier to be on a corner. I got this guy. I'm dropping into a zone. And nickel.
Remember how much PJ Locke got toasted, and then PJ Locke went on and had a solid NFL career. I mean, it's it's because he's out of position. It's such a hard position to play, man. Jelani McDonald could get a look there though.
That'd be cool, but I want Jelani up high so he can smack people, like get going.
That's what I said too, because he's still great in run support from depth.
Yeah,
and he's got a lot of range back there, and he's intimidating. But I would keep him back there as well. But it's nice to have that flexibility when those bigger offensive personnel packages are out. You could go put your 6'2", 200. He'll probably be 210 next year. Safety there.
He did a great job versus Arizona State doing that a ton.
We're not going to speculate on who's going in the portal, but we will use this as a framework of just talking about the position of safety.
Well, we just talked about. I could speculate who's not going to the portal. Any of those three.
Cool. Well, yeah. We just talked about McDonald. Me and Eric want to keep him back, and the coaches always do exactly what me and Eric want, so we've dictated that. And then Derek Williams coming back from injury. What's the word on him behind the scenes? How's he doing with the injury and all of that?
Yeah, I think he's expected back full go in June. So there's not really too much to know. But I don't really care about what I hear about in rehab from these guys or how well they're running in a straight line. Football's not played in a straight line, so it's got to be out there playing football and in coverage. And I want to hear how he's moving. But June was the expectation on Williams, last I heard. But no, why would Phil Simi hit the portal? I mean, that guy's he's always a bit of a project. Came to the position late, played offense for much of his life. He's in a good spot. Just keep developing. These coaches are developing players left and right, and they play 4 deep. So really, you only have to be the fourth safety to play. And right now, they've got 3 sure things with Taft, McDonald, Williams. That's an open spot for Phil Simi, Jordan Johnson-Rebel, or maybe Mr. Baseball, Jonah Williams.
Yeah, Nash Talk Texas had an interesting post where he was showing Jonah running base pass, and like one of the best Texas base runners was at like 4-point-something seconds, and Wilson is already doing sub 4 at like 3. So it's just showing the difference in athletes in baseball. Totally he's going to be good running. Joe Cook, the legendary Joe Cook. Jelani sticking at safety is one of the best parting gifts Jeff Choate ever could have given to Blake Gideon.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, they thought they went after Jelani thinking he'd grow into a linebacker, and it looks like he's kind of right where he needs to be body-wise. It's not a DeMarvin Overshown situation where he's just going to put him at linebacker. So you've got sort of a linebacker mindset, but with corner athleticism and a safety body. It's he's quite the player.
And corner personality.
Yeah. My wife pointed out Jelani McDonald. Like, who the hell is that guy? He came running across the field 100 miles an hour. Like, it's really good when my wife is identifying. That says a lot.
Dude, some of this eval stuff is not that hard. Like with those kind of players, when you see them go across the field, even your wife can be like, huh.
Yeah.
Point him out.
How is Santana Wilson coming along?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I even posted in the article this morning. I'm going to have to ask about Santana. When these guys aren't going to play, I don't spend a whole lot of time investigating. But now is the time. I've got to figure out what's going on with each guy in the program, and I'm going to do that. I'll have an article relatively soon on cornerbacks, and I'll get some information on him. He came in slight of build, and they don't like to play, and they don't like to play inexperienced players if they don't have to. So now year of development. Now I'm going to get a little bit more interested in him. Kind of like we were talking about Parker Livingstone a lot more now. Well, all of a sudden it's because he's going to play. Yeah. If when they play, we start talking about him a lot more.
Yeah. Gabriel's asking, where are all the walk-ons? I don't know what this really means.
Well, maybe he wants more Michael Tafts. Yeah, Taft, Jet, Bush. Those are Tom Herman, for all his flaws, he did some good things, and one of them was what he did with the walk-on program of taking real football players and not just punching bags.
Right.
Money.
What I would do is I would go to find, now the walk-ons they're not, it's disappearing. Unfortunately, they're not. It's going to go to more. They're going to go to more scholarships, and it's going to hurt walk-ons quite a bit. But yeah, if you go look at who the service academies are offering, you can find some real good football players there. And you would notice a lot of the guys that Herman would take as walk-ons had service academy offers or Ivy Leagues. And so obviously Taft had a Rice offer. But yeah, the walk-ons are unfortunately you're not seeing them with nearly as much frequency. Marshall Landwehr is a good walk-on at linebacker who played quite a bit this year on special teams, I believe, and is viewed as a good player behind the scenes. Obviously not like Anthony Hiller and some of those freaks, but he's a good player.
Yeah, it's and the worst part about all this is it's awful for social media because we will get less you got a scholarship videos which perform excellent.
Yeah, I love those, especially in the spring around that
You
time.
also have to save those for losses so you can make the fans happy again. So wait till a loss and then give us walk on a scholarship.
See, this is the type of guy we need on Inside Texas if he's not already. Lack of portal entry starts with top-notch personnel evaluations, emotional intelligence matched with football intelligence. Exactly right. You got to find guys that have the EQ to play the long game, to stay and be developed. That's a huge part of it. You see a lot of these, former 5 stars or elite guys going into the portal after one season. That I can already tell you that their chances of success plummeted dramatically with that decision. Just stay, pick the school for the right reason. And then buy into the plan. Look at how many offensive linemen have stuck by with Flood despite all those bodies. You're not seeing many guys hit the portal. That tells you a lot about the guys that they are evaluating and signing.
Yeah, and on Saturday's show, Eric talked about the possibility of a potential 2-year, hey, you got to stay 2 years, both sides. And that would be interesting because, I think kids are shooting themselves in the foot. They're probably taking an upfront NIL deal for a year and then trying to remarket. And it just it doesn't end up benefiting them. We've also seen that strategy not work well.
A lot of those kids are getting bad advice, and you hate it. Some of the worst advice I've seen is from the people that should have their best interest at heart. I've seen a lot of parents interject themselves into the process and just totally ruin kids. Very frustrating, but it happens.
Yeah, it's depressing.
You just see those kids transfer 2 or 3 times too on top of that.
Yeah.
The one I'm thinking about right now is off to his 4th school, and it's like his 4th year in college.
Yeah. Yeah, the mindset of we're going to try to re-up every year and leverage every year, it's not the smartest way to go about it.
Nope, not thinking about Alexander. I'm thinking about a town in Colorado, but that's a good example right there.
Yeah, it is a good example. All right, we got the national championship game tonight, fellas. Does it feel, and I saw someone tweet this, does it feel like there's not much hype going on? It feels is it maybe just because we're in Texas world, but it just, do you think there's any fatigue there or weirdness, or maybe it's just the matchup or whatever, but it doesn't feel as exciting as it normally does. What do you guys think about that?
It could be the matchup. Most people are just picking Ohio State to win. They don't think Notre Dame has a chance. It could be a little bit, a lot of that, but I don't know if it's just not much hype. To me, you see it on social media. People talk about it here and there, but I don't know. I don't follow national stuff all that much. It just doesn't seem like there's much time. And last week was wild in the Texas environment. So I was just, slammed with all that stuff going on. I'm actually excited about the game, and I don't feel any pain that Texas isn't in it. Texas lost. You lose in sports. That's what happens. The better team, I feel like the better team won that night. It makes it a lot easier for me to deal with that.
And only one team ends up happy every year. Everyone else loses.
Yeah, we're all headed for heartbreak except for one team. So I'm actually excited about the game. I'm gonna make some queso, have a couple beers, and just enjoy the last college football game of the season. But I do think there is some fatigue. I was talking to somebody pretty well known in the Texas world. I was like, you know what? I could have survived another week of covering this season, but I'm actually relieved that it's over. It was so long. It was so damn long.
It was.
That I'm fine with it. I think a lot of people are feeling that same way, and I think a lot of attentions are already turned over to the NFL too.
Yeah.
So, but I'm looking forward to the game, even though Ohio State is now. The last time I was excited about a Notre Dame national championship game against Alabama, they didn't even show up. So hopefully Notre Dame doesn't go up there trying to run man coverage against those wide receivers, and this turns into a laugher in the first half.
I mean, this is Ohio State's 5th big game in 2 months. Yeah, if they all become such big deals, then by proxy, kind of none of them become big deals.
That's a good point there, Jeff G.
Yeah, I think that's astute. It's strange that Ohio State versus Notre Dame doesn't that much.
Does it register that much? Yeah, I think it does. It does to me. It does. You know, I ran into one of my Notre Dame buddies at the gym the other day, and he couldn't stop smiling. You know, he's so ready for the game. I'm excited about it. Those 2 helmets that would mean something, just like the 2 helmets that open it up next year in the shoe next year, Texas and Ohio State. True college football fans are going to be all over that. I'm excited for the game. There's a lot going on in the world today. I mean, it's inauguration day. I mean, there's just a ton of stuff going on, and I think the fatigue is an aspect of it too.
How are the coaches and players feeling about if the fans are getting tired during the season? How are people feeling about the length of the season behind the scenes?
Well, they're tired, man. What game is this for Ohio State? This will be their 16th game, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think
it's 17.
Is it 17? Because they didn't play a conference championship game because they lost to Michigan.
That's right.
Yeah, but Texas had to play 16 games. That season is too long. We can have that debate.
It'll be 16th.
Yeah, I think 16 games is too long. 17 games is the max. It's too much. We reported the other day one of Texas's star players has 4 legitimate injuries right now that he was playing through. We laugh about it, but that guy's probably hasn't left.
Yeah, but how do you even do that? Yeah. Is that like both shoulders, both knees? Like, how do you even get injured 4 separate ways?
Yeah, he probably hasn't left the ice bath since that last game, man. I hate to be laughing about it, but
it just shows how insane it is. You know, like to deal with that many injuries, it is kind of crazy. I guess maybe get rid of a playoff game.
I don't know. Those 5:30 to 11 p.m. nights, 5:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. nights catch up with you after so many weeks, man.
Yeah. I think I think they need to get rid of conference championship games, but then you have to make sure that you come up with a way that you still determine the best team. And if they're not all playing each other, if you're in a conference that has 16 teams or whatever, how many are in the SEC? It's a ton. 14. 16. I don't know. 6. Yeah, I don't know how they're going to figure it out.
I think the NFL playoff is cutting into the marketing of it. It was interesting for what did Goodell told somebody in CFP that they're going to work to, give them time slots, which is interesting because the college football has no leverage there because the NFL is like, yeah, we're going to get rid of millions of dollars to be nice. It'll be interesting to see how that actually works out.
Well, I think they should start the season a little sooner. They could get rid of a conference or a non-conference game or two. I mean, and that would actually be negative for the smaller schools because they depend on those paydays. But I think there's too many games, and the season needs to end sooner. Like everybody, we all grew up with college football basically ending a couple days after New Year's, right? The Texas famous game against USC was January 5th, I think, 4th or 5th. And that was like late. That was considered late at the time. You used to have your national championship, your national champion decided on New Year's Day. I think that the season's too long. They need to start it earlier, and they need to get rid of a non-conference game or two.
I agree. Yeah. Notre Dame seems hell-bent on playing man. Very curious to see how it plays out. But also strategically, a lot of it, the media are stoke the flames. The media cracks me up sometimes. I am media now, but it's just like they're literally just being like, so Notre Dame, you're going to dare Jeremiah Smith? That's the question.
Yeah, and the media is slaves to narrative, and we try to be anti-narrative.
It just cracks me up because they're basically like trying to start a Notre Dame Ohio State fight while trying to be objective on the mat. It's very funny. But what's interesting is Notre Dame has they're saying, hey, we're going to keep doing what we're going to do, which is, of course, what they're going to say. Because what's the inverse? They're going to say we're not going to play man and play zone and let Ohio State know what's coming. So we'll just have to see in the game. It will be very interesting if Notre Dame does say we're going to try to go athlete for athlete.
I can't see them being that dumb.
It seems quite unwise.
That's suicide, man.
Please don't.
And you can see if you keep the safeties over the top and can stop the run in an honest box, you can take those wide receivers out of it. Almost sure this wasn't an unpopular opinion. I felt that the winner of Texas versus Ohio State was going to win it all. Do y'all agree?
I think a lot of people felt that way, or felt like that game was the national championship game. Honestly, the 2 best teams. But I mean, a lot of people feel that way. I mean,
I don't I personally don't agree with it because Texas would still have to play a very clean game against Notre Dame.
Exactly. We shoot ourselves in the foot versus a clean team. I feel like if Ohio State won it, they were going to win it.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think so with Ohio State. And I think Texas obviously would have been the favorite against Notre Dame. We knew that in lines that existed before. Yeah. But yeah, Texas would still have to play a clean game. And, Texas can be inconsistent on offense. They could have meltdowns on special teams. One thing was for sure, Notre Dame was not going to score a lot. So Texas Texas could win that game at 20, right? I mean, it's not hard to see that the Texas defense would hold Notre Dame to 17 or something. But Texas would still have to play a clean game. And it wouldn't. To me, it wouldn't have been a foregone conclusion at all.
Notre Dame could have beat us. Counterpoint, Notre Dame is pretty banged up.
Yeah, I heard.
Counterpoint. We couldn't beat Georgia this year, so Notre Dame could beat us.
We've got some serious Tai Chi going on over here in the comments.
Yeah, exactly. It's So who do you think gets the win? I think it's pretty clear. We all feel confident that Ohio State has the upper hand here.
Man, I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to pick Ohio State, but I just like Marcus Freeman a lot.
So do I. He's super. He made Notre Dame likable, which is strange.
Yeah, I don't like Ryan Day, and I don't like that whole born on third base thinks you hit a triple thing. It's so much easier to take over a school like Ohio State than one that's. I don't care if it's even a proud tradition like Texas. Sark had such a tougher job than Ryan Day. And just a little over a month ago, Ohio State, or I guess 2 months now, a lot of Ohio State fans wanted that guy fired. They do not deserve a national championship if you wanted your national championship winning coach fired. Just don't.
It is going to, dude, the emotional roller coaster Ryan Day has gone on, and if he wins this, is absolutely from just the pits of hell to losing against Michigan to maybe the top. And also, once again, it stresses the importance of it hurts, but sometimes the best thing that can happen is your rival win. Like Michigan won the national championship, and Ohio State boosters were like, all right, we're not losing any players, and then they're probably going to come back and win it. So it is interesting, too, to see how when two rivals are good, how it can it's
also a reminder not to get too high or too low. Like it's not unfathomable that Texas could lose to it's kind of unfathomable because it'll be at home, but they could lose to A&M in the last game of the season and then still go on and win the national championship like that.
Yeah, that's
something that could happen. I'm not saying it would, obviously. How often does Texas legitimately have a shot at the Natty? Well, pretty much every year that Sark's there going forward. They long ago hit reload rather than rebuild stage. And so before this season, I said that they're in a 3-year championship window with Quinn Ewers and then 2 years of Arch. So at least the next 2 years.
I think historically Notre Dame is more hated than Ohio State, but this Notre Dame program is more likable than Ryan Day's program. Well, yeah, Brian Kelly also is historically a very unlikable guy. Freeman is just you end up rooting for him.
Notre Dame was always on TV, so you either loved them or hated them, and that's kind of where that comes from. I don't think there's ever a real reason to dislike Notre Dame outside of Brian Kelly, or just they were the media darling for so long, and sometimes people don't like that. I don't like that either, but I always enjoyed watching Notre Dame as a kid growing up. I still remember that game against Florida State in '91, the game of the century. Notre Dame wins that and then goes and loses to Boston College like a week or two later. Oh man,
dude, it's crazy. Notre Dame is playing in the national championship and lost to Northern Illinois University.
Yeah.
Who's also not even a good team. Like they went like 500 too. So it's not like one of those like lower ranked programs, but they had a really good year. What a weird.
And yet again, don't get too high or too low. They come. It just tells you that they put a lot into that A&M game the week before, right? Wasn't that their second game of the season?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they had a program wide mental lapse is what happened.
Yeah, huge.
No, I think it wasn't it after, because the whole argument was
because
A&M was saying that was a good loss, and then they immediately lost to NIU and A&M.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They had a mental lapse after the big game against big game in quotation marks against A&M.
Yeah. How long do you think Sark will stay at Texas? With the current state of college football, it seems the NFL would be an easier job. It officially is an easier job as far as time commitment. I don't know mentally, but Sark did a good job, man. Did we ever hear which NFL teams wanted to talk with him?
I assume the Cowboys.
No, someone reported that it wasn't the Cowboys. One of the Cowboys guys. So that's interesting. But Sark was able to parlay. I wonder if we get into Harbaugh territory every year with Sark, the emotional exhausting of like the NFL wants them.
Yeah, that was my joke. Somebody asked, when are we going to have to go through this again? I said, probably 12 months. And then 12 months thereafter.
Once this starts, and also it doesn't benefit Sark to squash it. His agent loves that the NFL,
Exactly.
so it just ends up being the whole thing. I hope it's not 10 years of like, is he?
He's the perfect NFL head coach candidate, so it's not going to stop.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we should honestly be happy it worked out. I'm upset because we know Texas had a shot to win it all this year from preseason and now. It's great we're back to contention, but it hurts because this team had a shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think you hang around the rim, right? We saw Michigan for years not getting it done. We saw Ohio State. I'm assuming they win. But, like, a lot of these guys, the goal is just to stay relevant in there, and you hope you are at the top of your roster cycle. Something goes right, Like, that's when you can do it. Because Ohio State didn't get it done until Saban was out of the way. I'm saying Ohio State like they already won. Michigan didn't get it done until Saban was at the very end of his thing.
Right.
This year Kirby hasn't been able to be consistent. So
Ohio State just had a little bit more to bring back than Texas, and that's what they did. They retained all those second, third round draft picks that wanted to come back, and they spent like crazy to do it. And so I mean they had the best team money can buy. And there's no fault in that. Texas had the second best team.
Yeah, that's not a knock. That's how that's Ohio State doing their job.
Yeah, Texas lost to a team that did a little bit better version of what Texas was doing. And it's not even Texas's fault. Ohio State just had more NFL pieces to bring back.
Right.
Are donors more likely to be satisfied after winning one, or will they see it as worth it and likely to keep giving to keep winning?
Well,
NIL is about to change entirely. So I don't know exactly which direction it's going to go, but I don't. Things are about to change.
It's also insane. We have a model where the fans fund the team. This is so dumb.
Yeah,
like
we can go in and donate to a player.
This is insane. This makes if college football didn't exist and we had to build a system, it would never be the fans have to pay for the team. So it should
be the taxpayers. All Texas taxpayers should be funding.
I do agree with
football
that.
Players.
Yeah.
Especially A&M taxpayers and Baylor taxpayers and Texas Tech taxpayers.
Yeah. Everyone should have to pay. I agree there. 30% of wages.
Come on, man.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, guys. Fun video. In a couple hours, Ian and Paul are going to do a special edition deep dive on the national championship. So if you guys are curious what Ian and Paul think about that game, tune in. I think we're going live at 1. Not a promise. It might move. But around that time, be on the lookout for a live.
I didn't even know that. That'll get people excited about the game.
Yeah, because we're not going to be able to do a live in game because everybody's going to be watching it. So no Monday Night Live, but in return, Paul and Ian will be doing a special edition.
Two of the best.
Absolutely. Yep. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, it's actually going to be a lot of fun. All right, fans. Thanks for tuning in. Eric, thank you. Coach, thank you. And hook 'em, y'all.